Nick. So I am definitely a good old boy. I come from that culture. I'm very excited to be here today around all these great minds and innovative individuals. I want to talk today about driving change to create a culture of engaged employees. Some of the things I have to say are not things I'm really proud of. But let me introduce myself. I'm not Kevin Costner. I'm Alan Peterson. I realize that the resemblance is striking. I've been with Arapahoe County. I've been their Road and Bridge Division Manager for exactly 5 years, 11 months, and 1 week, 5 days. As of today, I've been in the public works government maintenance arena for 29 years, 5 months, and 1 day. 1 day today. I feel like it's my birthday or anniversary or something. But I joined the Good Old Boy Club. I got my first government job in the early 90s. And I want to tell you a little bit about this Good Old Boy Club that I was finally initiated into. Here were some of the bylaws. You had to be with the organization for at least 2 years. Notice I didn't say 2 years of experience. You just had to be there. You had to have the ability to outwit your supervisor. You had to have the ability to belittle and embarrass the newbies that came on. And if you could do that in front of an audience, all the better. If you were overweight, out of shape, or smoked Marlboros, those were extra points to get you into the, and look at me. You know, I did quit smoking many, many years ago, but, still a good old boy. If I could keep the same pair of gloves clean for an entire year, that said something about your stature in the club. You had to be able to waste at least 7.5 hours during an 8-hour day. I knew some guys that could waste 10 hours in an 8-hour day. If you owned a boat, a gun, or a bowling trophy, you were also in the club. I hate to be so stereotypical, but I want you to get a picture of what the Good Old Boy Club looked like. So in the Good Old Boy Club, I'm no stranger to wasteful government. I've seen it, I've experienced it, I've participated in it. I've seen millions of dollars wasted, materials, resources, and the worst of all, really talented employees that weren't challenged and put into the right seat on the bus. The club is an entitlement club. It's ruled strictly by seniority, and seniority always prevailed. Favoritism was absolutely obvious. If you shared the same interest and had the same hobbies and extracurricular activities as the supervisor, you were in the club. You were in line to be promoted. Poor workmanship is satisfactory was okay. Satisfactory was a good thing. There was no pride or accountability in the Good Old Boy Club. Laziness was not only tolerated, sometimes it was encouraged. Those that worked harder were berated by others for working hard and being engaged. That's the kind of club this was. So this is not my crew, but it's illustrative of the kind of crew that I might have worked on. It struck a chord with me. I think I counted 9 people on this job site. I really like this guy. He's rolled up his pants, he's sitting on the guardrail so he can get some sun. There's only one guy working there. There's over $1 million worth of equipment sitting on this job site with one guy working, kinda. You can absolutely tell who the boss, You can absolutely tell who the boss is. The boss is the guy standing right there in the middle, and you can see his assistant, kind of behind him and to his left. That's the next guy in line to be the supervisor. After about 3-4 years or so into the Good Old Boy Club, I finally landed a supervisor job. Everything was going great. Everything was going great until about 3 weeks into the job, I met the big boss, and he came in to give me my performance plan for the year. And you wouldn't believe it. He expected me to produce results. He wanted me to be accountable and hold my crew accountable as well. He expected quality work and efficiency. He wanted me to be trustworthy and thrifty and loyal. I couldn't believe it. He wanted me to actually work for a living. This was absolutely new territory for me in government. But like the farmer's insurance dude, I've seen a thing or two. I've heard a thing or two. I've participated in a thing or two. And as I mentioned, I'm not proud of some of those things. Fortunately, I did have that aha moment was eventually booted out of the good old boy club. So I'm going to take a few minutes and tell you what I've learned, what I've seen, what I've heard, why I think it's important to change government culture. If any of this resonates with you in those dark alleys of your organization, and I'm also going to give you a couple of tips how we went about changing our culture. I didn't do this alone. We had a team of great innovators doing that. So I want to share a couple of things that I've heard inside the good old boy club looking on the outside. So these are some of the things that I hear on a pretty regular basis. I've been here the longest, so the next promotion is mine. Maybe if you paid me more, I'd work a little harder. It was like, how about you do your job and then we'll pay you? Good enough for government work? I hate that. Yeah. You can't see it from my house? Poor workmanship was okay? Turn it black and don't look back? So I worked on a paving crew. We turned streets black. Didn't really matter if it was a smooth ride or we got densities. It didn't matter the quality of the work. We painted it black and didn't look back. This is something a guy about 2 years ago, 23 years of experience, 23 years in the club, handed me his resignation one day, and he said, a grown man, 23-year veteran of the organization, he told me, I didn't take this job because I really wanted to work hard. We were a better organization the day he left. I've also been accused of being a racist. That's when I first met our HR director. Come to find out, I'm not a racist. The guy really was a bonehead. I've also been accused of favoritism. Second time I met the HR director. It's true, I do have my favorites. There are all those that show up to work on time. There are those ones that are engaged and actually care about doing good work. So this is what I've heard from some of my citizens, my customers, the ones I'm serving. Just another lazy, shovel-leaning government worker. I've been called that. Surely you must be smoking something. Why don't you try doing the things right the first time? You should leave it to the professionals and contract your work out. I was just reading an email I got during a break. A citizen suggested just that to me a few minutes ago. One of my personal favorites is this one. Your mother should have raised a calf on the milk instead. And how many times have you heard I pay my taxes? If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I wouldn't have to work for 29 years, 11 months a day. Okay, now I'm hoping this will work. I want to give you a little sample. Do you want to do this, John? I want to give you a little sample of what I deal with. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to work. Anyway, we can just skip that one if you want, John. Here I'll go. So it was a couple of audio clips that I recorded, phone messages that I had captured from some citizens that just absolutely reamed me, and every other word was, I pay my taxes, or why don't you contract this work out? It was pretty funny. I'm sorry that didn't work, but the point is, there's a huge gap there between government workers and that communication that happens with those that we serve. And so what do you do about that? So I've given you a little background of my role on the old boy club and my role outside of the good old boy club. So I think it's important to talk about why change it. It's really, really very simple. And you can tweet these quotes if you like, they're mine. If you're not prepared for change, you become a victim of it. I prefer to anticipate that change. I prefer to create that change and always keep looking for a better way to do business. Secondly, if you're not prepared to change as your industry and your business and your culture changes, if you don't change with that, you're going to be stuck in a black hole and you'll no longer be relevant or competitive in your industry. This is the third reason why I think change is important. I have drawn this hundreds of times for anybody that'll listen to me. It's very, very simple, but I'm going to share with you. Maybe it'll resonate. So this is your timeline of your whole life. You're born 18 to 25 years old. You get out of high school. You go to college. You join the military. You join the working class. Whatever you do, you work the next 35, 40 years or so in your industry or business. You might change job a few times here and there. And the life expectancy today is between 84 and 86 years old for an American male. My point is, if you spend this huge amount of your life doing the wrong thing, it's very simple. You're not living your life right. Take these principles and you'll be happier and live a more fulfilled life. It's that simple. So there's a couple of ways now how to go about changing. I implemented change incorrectly many times. It backfired on me. I was introduced to the ADKAR principles that I'll talk about in just a second. Building trust. Jay talked about building trust, incredibly important with the public, and communicating clearly. So first, the ADKAR principles. This was developed by a guy named Jeff Hyatt, who developed this change management plan called ADKAR. It's an acronym for Awareness, Desire, Knowledge, Ability, and Reinforcement. Just real quickly, awareness, you have to build that awareness of the need to change. You have to have the desire with employees and staff to participate and support the change. Sometimes it means you have to explain the consequence. You have to build awareness of not changing, build that awareness so that they understand the consequences of not changing, and that's how you build that desire sometimes. Sometimes that means termination. Sometimes that means people need to go find another job. You have to have the knowledge and a plan to start with. You have to have the ability. Employees have to have the ability to implement new skills and behavior. They may need training or different materials, different techniques. Invest in them. And of course, with any good plan, you reinforce it. You celebrate your victories. Also, along with the ADKAR principles, building trust. Jay spoke on this. Everyone has spoken about this. This is the foundation of communicating with the public. Franklin Covey has 13 key elements of building trust. And I want to hit them just really quickly because I think they're very, very important. He teaches this in a class called Leadership at the Speed of Trust. I highly recommend it. He says you have to talk straight, be honest, and let people know where you stand. Demonstrate respect, genuinely care for others. If you're faking it, they'll know it. Create transparency, tell the truth, and declare your intent. Get real. Right the wrongs. Make things right and apologize quickly when you're wrong. I mentioned there's no statute of limitations on doing the right thing. If you think you've done someone wrong back in 2002, it's not too late to do your best to go back and fix that. Show loyalty, give credit to others, speak about people as if they were present. This reminds me of Eleanor Roosevelt's great quote. You could probably tweet this one too. She said, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and simple minds discuss people. Deliver results, make things happen, be a doer, establish a track record. Get better, commit to continuous improvement, be a constant learner, gather feedback from your wife, your coworkers, mentors, find them. Confront reality, take issues head on, even the undiscussable. You can't imagine in 29 years some of the undiscussable discussions I have had to have with people. It's unbelievable what they pay me to babysit. Clarify expectations. This is probably one of the most important ones, I think. We discuss them, validate them, negotiate them if necessary. Some expectations are not negotiable. Practice accountability. Hold yourself accountable first, others secondly. Be responsible, just like your mama told you. Listen first. Listen before you speak. Understand. Listen with your ears, eyes, and hearts. I struggle with this one, but I'm a work in progress. I keep working on that. Keep commitments. Say what you're going to do and then follow through. It's a symbol of honor. Let me say that again. It's a symbol of honor. And extend trust. Demonstrate a propensity to trust. Be trustworthy yourself. Extend trust. That doesn't mean stupid trust. If you believe in that, I'll sell you an alligator farm in Florida. But be smart about extending trust as well. In addition to building trust and applying the ADKAR principles, you need to communicate clearly. So what we did in our organization, we posted weekly schedules with benchmarks, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and everybody knows what they are. In the good old boy days, if you got an assignment, you knew what your assignment was going to be the next day or the next week, and you didn't want to do that particular task, well, that's what sick leave is for, right? We speak extensively and excessively about what success looks like. We talk about it all the time. We also talk about our failures and what we can do better next time. We set clear, crystal clear expectations, so there's no room for doubt. These are documented in performance plans with very measurable goals. We share important information from managers, supervisors, and crew meetings. Every other Monday, I have a meeting with my division manager and the 5 other managers that talk about what's going on in the county. The very next day, on Tuesday, I have a staff meeting with my direct reports, managers, and supervisors. We share that information together. It's two-way communication. Wednesday of the following day, each supervisor meets with their crew and hands down information. So it's a revolving circle of communication, both up and down. We ask employees what they expected from supervisors and managers. We did this through a Survey Monkey. It was a pretty simple survey. They want to feel valued. They want a succession plan, a career path, and they want to do meaningful work. So we followed up with all employees when they had concerns. We never left anything hanging. We discussed the undiscussables as a group. And we encouraged an open door policy. Don't let things stew. Come talk to somebody. But we insisted on a chain of command so that we didn't have good old boys running right to the HR director and the county attorney and so forth. And we created an employee committee and a focus group to concentrate on some of these issues that were brought forth. So I want to say, just for the record, it was a complete failure. I hated our employee committee. It was very short-lived. My intentions were good. It didn't work. It turned into a happy hour planning committee, and it was just really lame, some of the things that they were coming up with. It became exclusive instead of inclusive, so not everybody got invited to happy hour. It reminded me of not getting invited to Don Mandel's 13th birthday party when all the other guys did. I didn't want that kind of culture. Employees wanted to change policy. They wanted to change our working hours and just some nonsense. So it was not a democracy. I had to say, yeah, no, you can't vote on this. We have to work. We have to get done. Supervisors eventually began facilitating the meetings as a last-ditch effort to keep it alive. Pretty soon it was the supervisor's agenda. It wasn't a true employee committee. They weren't communicating through the organization. You had to, if you were in the know, then you were entitled to know. So I just hated it, and I just feared that it was fertile ground for nurturing that good old boy kind of culture again. So what we did instead is I got a tour of Caterpillar Equipment's facility where they had hundreds of employees, and on kind of their break room, they had this huge whiteboard where employees could write down ideas, and then they tracked them where they were in the process, if they were discussed or if they were dismissed or they were being considered or even implemented. So I kind of borrowed that idea from Caterpillar, and we have this thing on our board. We call it the thought spot. So if any employee has any kind of idea that's worthwhile or not, they can put their idea on the board, and they get that little keychain, little light bulb keychain. So it's kind of trivial, but we get all kinds of things on here. Some of them are nonsense. I'm trying to find a business reason why we need a soft serve ice cream machine. I just can't justify it yet. So we disbanded the employee committee, and we introduced a new paradigm. We branded our division. So the picture on the left, we have 2 facilities in Arapahoe County. The one on the left there is our western facility near Centennial Airport, and the one on the right is out in Bennett, Colorado, which is almost at Kansas. There's 40-some miles in between these 2 facilities, and the supervisors weren't talking together, and they weren't sharing resources, and they were very, very siloed, back to the 18th century farming technology. It was a mess. So somebody came up with the idea of branding our West and our East organization. And so that's what we did. We became Brand We. We had it embroidered on all of our clothing, our shirts, hats, little pop sockets. We made a big deal out of being Club We. We even have our own mascot. This is one of our supervisors that we were punking one day and got him to actually dress up on this. The HR director got a hold of it, invited our whole team to travel around through the county and talk about change management, particularly that ADCAR model. So it was a hit with the HR director. This is our Public Works annual picnic that we do. We had little tattoos made want you guys to have some tattoos too. We passed some of these around. So we had 150 employees there with their spouses and children, and everybody got a tattoo. It was great fun, and everybody bought into it. We're also very, very careful that we don't create another good old boy club with our We brand. The picture on the left hangs in one of our locker rooms. It's a banner that hangs in there just to remind people that they're awesome and have important work to do. The one on the right here, you can't tell the dimensions. It's huge. It's about 6 by 8, and hangs in the hallway. We take it down every year and invite new employees to sign it. To me, it's a binding contract that they'll strive for excellence every day. I also met a very interesting character on an airplane on my way to Dallas. One time, his name is Darren Martin, and he wrote A Company of Owners, and he autographed and gave me a copy of his book, and I loved his book because I wanted our employees, I want somebody to have this, you have to read it and then promise to pass it on to another engaged employee in your organization, and he has to do the same. So it's an excellent book. It talks about being stakeholders, and that's exactly what I wanted employees to feel like in our business. Stakeholders, stockholders in a $16 million a year business. So this is what our org chart traditionally looks like. Every box has a position number. This is an HR tool. I pretty much take this one down and I post this one. This is more representative of what our culture is today. So the results of 29 years, 11 months, 5 weeks, and 1 day today, I have an engaged workforce. They're satisfied in their jobs. Production has increased tenfold, and in some cases 400%. We've seen an increase in quality and pride in workmanship, reduce the unit cost of doing business, flexible workforce. They're more comfortable with change. They anticipate it. We're committed to continual improvement, positive, sustainable culture, and I spend much less time with the HR director and the county attorney. I want to leave you with what our public works mission statement is. I think it's really good. It's service with a relentless pursuit of excellence. It says that we're always looking to get better, and that's what we represent. My Road and Bridge division, we don't call it a mission statement because I think it's more of a mantra that Darren Martin talks about in his book, A Company of Leaders. It's very simple. Do the right thing at the right time for the right reason, and you can change your culture. Just want to leave you with this. One last thing. That's me 16 years ago, the one on the left. Striking resemblance, huh? Thank you very much.